Hi everyone, and welcome to my presentation at the customer event, and welcome at the customer event as well. So I'm Michael, I'm the mixologist at work for today. I'll be mixing up some recipes. Drinks are not included, so bring your own drink today, and by drink, I mean code. So maybe first up, who am I? My name is Michael. I'm the research manager at iText. I've been at the company for about 10 and a half, 11 years now. And as of today, I lead a team responsible for pushing forward iText and key technology into the future. We do that by, first of all, writing proof of concepts, looking at emerging market trends. But secondly, we offer a lot of support on in the PDF community. We try to lead by example there and try to make open. So what are we going to do today? We are going to be mixing a few recipes today. I've got two recipes ready for you today, and they have to PDF and PDFUA. So why would you mix these up? Well, they first of all, maybe what are these standards? These are two standards that are built on top of the open PDF specification, which they both have limitations and additional requirements built on top of the PDF specification. And these requirements that they have, sometimes they overlap at some points, meaning that they have like similar requirements. And sometimes people confuse these. When I used to work on support, there were some questions that revolved around this. So we're going to bring some clarity into this. So maybe first up, what is PDFA? The A in PDFA stands for archiving. So archiving, you already have the image in your mind of an archivist putting a book inside a library. It doesn't really stray too far from the truth, actually. PDFA is meant for storing PDF files on the long term, but most importantly, being able to open and read the PDF files consistently when they are being opened. And by doing that, the main goal for PDFA is to make sure that the PDFA document, is self-contained, meaning that it has all the resources necessary to open the PDF file 20 years in the future. One of the things I can think about is, for instance, the embedding of font files. As you all know, applications, systems, OSs, they like to change their default font, for instance. I used to know a time where Microsoft Word had Times New Roman as its default font. Nowadays, it's Calibri, or they're changing it to something else. So making sure that the font file is embedded within the PDF file allows you to be able to open that PDF file well into the future. So that you don't rely on the system fonts anymore, but that you rely on the font that is provided within the file, for instance. There are many more of these requirements and provisions that we'll dive into later. PDFUA, on the other hand, has to deal with universal accessibility. Very similar to the physical world, there are some limitations to what a user with disabilities may do with virtual documents or virtual content. Imagine a blind user or a person with a motoric impairment. They might have some difficulties reading a PDF file. There is technology available, assistive technology, we call them, AT, that opens these documents for those users. They do that through the use of screen readers, the use of joysticks to navigate files and documents and content, and stuff like that, think all that. But to be able to consume that content in that manner, you need to be able to provide or to parse that as a processor or as an AT provider. Because PDF is quite finicky, and we'll see that when working on it. So these use cases, they are different, and they don't really overlap. The requirements for both file formats do overlap, and that's where the confusion comes in. You can have a file that is both compliant to PDFA and UA. This goes a bit beyond the scope and time limit of this slot. So we will only be making a PDFA file and PDFUA file, and I'll highlight the differences between the two, but also the similarities. So let me jump into my code editor. So as mentioned, I am a coder. So this is what we'll be doing. So this is my code editing window. I've created an empty package here. There's a results folder that's also empty, as you'll notice. And I've loaded up already 2 dependencies on iText. So there's the layout dependency and the PDFA dependency. As you can see here, they are all loaded fine and dandy. So let's start by making a simple class. I'm horrible at naming. I also named my kids Kid 1 and Kid 2, just for clarity's sake. So let's just go with creation. Give it a moment. Okay, there we go. So we are working with Java, so we do need a main method. So the way to work with iText is that you have multiple ways of working with it. And the advised way is to use the high-level API. The high-level API allows you to use familiar constructs and methods, concepts such as paragraphs, images, tables, and lists, instead of having to rely on the low-level API, which I'm writing out here in the PDF document class. So we are working with a relatively new version of Java, so we can use private resources. We're not stuck in 2009 anymore. So we can do document is new document. It is still Java after all. And we need the layout class. We pass this, the PDF document, to make sure. And in this PDF document, which is the low-level API of our suite, you will pass a PDF writer, because we are not going to read PDF files. We are just going to write PDF files. And just extract this for future sake. And we are going to type the words correctly, and we are going to use a file output stream to a simple folder, and let's just do pdf.pdf. Just to keep up with the verbosity of Java. Of course, this is not production-ready code, so let's just throw the exceptions that we found through the main method. Don't do this at home. Well, do this at home. Don't do this in production. Don't do this at your job. It's not going to pass code review. So in this document, we're in the try block right now. So what we're going to do is we're just going to add a simple paragraph. I'm going to name it paragraph. We're going to pass the text, hello, everyone. We are going to be inclusive today. PDFUA is all about inclusivity. So we're going to do that as well. And now we're going to pass that to the document. We're going to add the paragraph, and we're going to be done with that. Okay, let me just run that code and just see what comes out of it. So this is a very simple document. Obviously, when you run this, you're going to be doing a lot more complex stuff, but this is just for example's sake. I've only got 20 minutes to showcase some examples. So this is a very simple PDF file. If we open it up in Adobe, there we go. We can see the text, hello, everyone. Not included are tags, more on tags in a few moments, and there is no standards thing. So it's a plain PDF document, as we can see here. It's a PDF 1.7 file right here in the middle with the PDF version tag. Okay, let me go back to the code editor. So the first thing to do is to turn this into a PDFA file. Let's name the file pdfa.pdf because we are going to be a bit more clearer, right? So the first thing to do is that we are going to create a PDFA file. So it's going to be called, we're going to be calling a PDFA document, which is a it is a subclass of the shared interface with documents. So we can just use this in our high level class document. So let me just clean up this a bit because we do need to provide a few additional lines here. So in order to create a PDFA document, you need a PDFA conformance level. PDFA has multiple versions at the time of this recording. There are 4 versions, conveniently labeled 1, 2, 3, 4. And those levels, those versions also have sublevels A, B, U, E, and F, depending on which version you're targeting. Important to note is that there is no best one. It all depends on your use case, environment, type of document, etc., etc. Depends on what you're trying to do. That being said, the easiest to attain, at least for this demo, is the 1B level. So we're just gonna do that. And then we need an output intent, which is something that I'm going to copy paste from my Scratch right here, because it does take a lot to type in, and I only got 20 minutes. So here I am loading in the color profile. The color profile will let the viewer, processor, printer know how to utilize or interpret the colors being specified in the document. So that is all in this handy resource file right here. So let's try to run this, and because of time's sake, I'm going to spoil the actual result. It's going to fail. iText for PDFA creation is going to do a lot of checks. It's going to check everything, whether or not you filled out the correct requirements. And in this case, we forgot to do one thing. We forgot to embed the font. Even though we didn't specify a font, in the case of PDFA1, we depend on PDF 1.4, which has a few default PDF fonts being specified. And the main one is Helvetica. So either we need to embed that one, or we need to specify a different font. Conveniently, I included another font file in my resources folder. So what a coincidence, right? So we also have a PDF font class for you that you can use. Let's give it the aptly named PDF font. And we can use the PDF font factory convenience methods to create PDF font objects. It's going to throw an exception again. For time's sake, we're just going to pass that on and act as if we don't care about it. But we do, but we don't right now. You know what to do. So we're going to pass the actual font file, source main resources, and we're going to pass freesend, it's called, right? freesend.ttf. We're also going to pass the encoding, and we're also going to pass the embedding strategy force embedded. So we are going to force iText to embed the file. Let's run it again. Spoiler alert, it's going to pass. So let's just give it some time. It is a bit slower because of the stream. Oh, spoiler alert, I am being a bit too quickly on this. So I need to set the font to the paragraph. So there we go. Everybody makes mistakes during live demos, and this is my first mistake of the day, during the live demo at least. So let's run it again, and I'm not going to be cocky anymore and do spoiler alerts. Talk about a lesson in humility. Okay, so exit code 0 means that it's passed, and we see a file up top here in the results folder. Let's open it and let's check. So we see now that there is an icon, an additional icon in the tab to the left, standards. And it claims to be compliant to PDFA1B, which is what we specified, but you need to verify it. So we click verify information, confirm it. Now you can use Adobe Acrobat Pro. That's what I use right here because it's a visual tool. But I like to use Vera PDF as well, which is an SDK, very much like iText. You can use that on. You can find that on GitHub to use. So the verification is successful, as was suspected. It's not a hard file. Now the second step was to add another letter. So we're going to add the U this time, and we are going to make this file a PDFUA file. First thing we need to do is get rid of all the A stuff. So we don't need to create PDFA files anymore. We can just do a PDF document. Then we get rid of all the conformance levels because we don't need them anymore. But we still need to tell the file that this is a PDFUA file. So how do we do that? Very simply, we have writer properties. Writer properties are things that you can pass to the PDF writer to make sure that you can manipulate the outputs, basically. So there's a plethora of things you can do. You can set the compression level, the PDF version, etc. But in this case, we only care about the UA XMP metadata. Now we mustn't forget to pass the writer properties to the actual writer this time, instead of like doing the thing with the font again, so that we miss it. So it's being passed right now. Now let's run this and let's see how iText will deal with this. It is building. It's going to take a while because of the stream again. So the code is going to run great. So you're going to see a PDFUA file. If you open up this file, you're going to see hello.
Hello everyone.
Hello everyone. I hope that the sound came through as well. So it read it out loud. Now it doesn't claim conformance or compliance to a certain standard here, but in Adobe Acrobat, you need to go to Preflight to do this. It's a bit of a hassle, but this is what Preflight is. So you can verify compliance with PDFUA 1, which is what we are going to do. There's a whole lot of things that we couldn't verify right now. So we still have some work to do. Okay, so the thing to do right now is to make sure that we've set the title. The title is very important in UA, and we can set that on the catalog amongst with some other stuff. We are going to pass. So we're going to do catalog set viewer preferences because we want to display the document title first. And we're going to set this to through. True. Okay, there we go. And then on the catalog, we are also going to, excuse me, there's no video apparently. Okay, no, there is video. Okay. Yeah, so we're going to set the language as well. Language is very important in the context of PDFUA because you're going to work with screen readers who read text out loud. So, and you need to specify the language because you don't want an English voice, which I assume is the default for most machines, to read out loud French text, for instance. That's going to sound horrible. Next up, we need to specify the title. So we're going to get the document info, which contains the document metadata of the file, and we're going to set the title to, not column, but to hello everyone. Again, very original. We need to do one more thing, and we need to correct the typo. And we need to make sure that our document is tagged. So in PDF file, for instance, if you have a table, it isn't what it seems like behind the scenes. If you add a table to a PDF file, it's mostly going to be just rendering instructions, like showing text on a certain absolute position, or it's going to render some lines in a certain grid, showing you the illusion, basically, of a table. In order to include that information in the PDF file, you need to set the tag flag. So running this should also pass very similarly to the build that we had earlier. Okay, build successful. Let's open up the file, go to Preflight again. There we go, Preflight. And do the compliance check. No problems found. There we go. You can see the tagging structure here. There's a paragraph with some text inside. Perfect. So putting this back on main. So thank you for mixing along. These were two short samples. If you want to see more, we have 2 webinars on this, which I've done with Kenneth, my marketing specialist colleague. Check them out on YouTube. And I hope that you can find me in the Ask Me Anything session later on. And make sure to follow the next tracks with Pavel, Israel, or Andre and Irina. Thank you for your time, and see you in a few.